The last two seasons, the Minnesota Vikings offensive line did not look good at all. Last season, it improved from the 2018 season, but it still was not the same. I mean, Kirk Cousins proved he needs so much help under center. Unlike some quarterbacks out there, I mean, you have Deshaun Watson, you have all these new guys coming in, and they're more mobile and they don't need as great of an offensive line. Kirk Cousins shows that he needs probably the best offensive line in the entire NFL for him to succeed. He had a lot of great games last year, and I think he is a really good quarterback under a good offensive line, which is why the Vikings need to improve their offensive line. Still, with this next free agency, I think they should get more guards. But we're going to be talking about how good is the Vikings offensive line this season. Now you have Garrett Bradbury, who second-year starter out of North Carolina State, and now again this year, I don't know if he's gonna he's gonna live up. I think he's gonna be a lot better this year than he was last year. Last year he didn't have the physical aspects of a center, but I think he still has a lot of talent, and I think he will look better this year. But he's not who we're looking at. The center was not the problem last year with the Vikings offensive line. It was the guards, and the guards this year. Oh, and the left tackle. Riley Reiff looked really bad last year, very overpaid left tackle, and I wish they would get rid of him right now because I think we have okay offensive line. I think we have a lot of depth on the offensive line, and we don't need to overpay Riley Reiff when we can have Rashad Hill coming in and looking just as good. So we don't need Riley Reiff at all, and especially because the Vikings this year, second round out of Boise State, they took Ezra Cleveland, who is going to be our backup left tackle. I think third string, also right tackle. I think he can play both ends, left and right tackle. But I think he will mostly be a left tackle because that's kind of where we need most of the help right now. Same with Rashad Hill. Both of our backups are just backup tackles. It's not left or right. So that's who we have right now on left tackle, and I think that's okay. I don't think we need to bring in any more left tackles. I was saying Trent Williams. We should have brought in Trent Williams. Now, they did draft Ezra Cleveland in the second round, so of course they're not going to be taking Trent Williams. That was kind of obvious. Right after that happened, Trent Williams was signed or traded to the San Francisco 49ers, which I think was a really good trade for the 49ers. I think that was a great trade. So after that happened, obviously, we knew that he wasn't going to be coming to Minnesota, which was kind of a bummer because I wanted to see him come into Minnesota and for them to be getting Riley Reiff out. But either way, it was not. You can't complain. I mean, we brought in Ezra Cleveland. We still have Rashad Hill. The Vikings gave new contracts to Dakota Dozier and Drew Samia, which I think were good ideas to give them a new contract. It kind of sucks to see that the Vikings are paying all these offensive linemen and then we don't have like solid starters. Like outside of Brian O'Neill, our starters aren't that great on the offensive line at all. I mean, Garrett Bradbury, we don't know what's going to happen with him. Our guards, not very good at all. And then we have a lot of depth. We have great backups, and that's what the Vikings starting offensive line is anyways, is great backups. So I think their offensive line will obviously improve this year because all these players on the offensive line were young and they have another year on their belt and they have to improve. I mean, they got to as long as Brian O'Neill, who gets injured every season though, and he's like our only talent on the offensive line, which it kind of sucks to see, but I think they're going to be better this year. Now, when you look at the guards, which I was saying guards are where the Vikings really struggled at last year, our best blocker on the offense, our best two blockers on the offense were CJ Ham and Kyle Rudolph. It wasn't even our offensive line. They were blocking a lot for Dalvin Cook, and those two players are the reason Dalvin Cook had a great season last season. It wasn't really the offensive line. I mean, the guards were not helping much at all. The tackles were okay. Center, Garrett Bradbury, we don't know what's going to happen with him. And then Brett Jones, they also got Brett Jones, re-signed him. Backup center for the offensive line. So our left guards would be Pat Elflein and Dakota Dozier. We need new left guards. We do not want to have Pat Elflein start another year. Elflein, they're not going to cut Pat Elflein. I don't see it happening just because he's on his rookie contract still. They're paying him not much at all, and I feel like he's an okay backup. He's not a starter at all. I would rather start Dakota Dozier over Pat Elflein. Pat Elflein, they're not going to cut Pat Elflein, although I don't want to see him starting another year. We need to bring in, I can't remember all the guards that are still on free agency, but we do need to sign more guards. I know that there is a lot out there, so the Vikings need to get someone else in who can be a starter over Pat Elflein, which is not saying much considering Pat Elflein is not a very good starter anyways. So, and then on the right guards, we have Josh Klein. I think Josh Klein is great. I think Josh Klein I think he's a really good backup, and I think he earned his spot as a starter on the Vikings team. So I would give it to Josh Klein and Brian O'Neill, both being starters on the offensive line, and then for Garrett Bradbury, we don't know much of. Pat Elflein, we don't want starting anymore, and Riley Reiff, we don't want starting anymore. So I want to see Rashad Hill play over Riley Reiff and Ezra Cleveland. I want to see both these people play because I think both of them can be better than Riley Reiff. Riley Reiff is old. He was a first-round bust from the Detroit Lions, and then is just overpaid from the Vikings offensive line in general. And we can bring in someone else, cut him, use that money, use that cap on a left guard, and that would really help out the Vikings team a lot, considering these guards are not good at all. Drew Samia, we don't know much about Drew Samia. He just had his rookie season, or was it his second? No, he just had his rookie season, Drew Samia, and I think he can be a great starter in the future. As for the 2020 season, I don't really see Drew Samia starting. However, I want to see him play a little bit because it's going to be interesting what this guy can do. He just had his rookie debut, and I think no one's talking about this, but he had a great rookie debut compared to a lot of the Vikings rookies. So that's what I want to see with the Vikings offense is just a new left guard, new left tackle, and then we don't need to sign anyone more. We have great backups all around the board. Right tackles, we're doing great at that. Brian O'Neill, when Brian O'Neill gets injured, which he's going to get injured. You have Rashad Hill and Oli Udoh. Oli Udoh also just had his rookie debut. And I want to see Oli Udoh play more too. I want to see him in preseason, other times, see what he can do because I don't know what to feel about Oli Udoh yet. But anyways, he's probably not going to play this 2020 season either. Maybe some garbage time, some games that don't matter. If people get injured, we'll see him play probably. So it's going to be interesting what happens with the Vikings offensive line this year. I think that it's going to be better than last year because these players have one more year under their belt. However, if Pat Elflein and Riley Reiff is starting, that left side of the offensive line is going to be very bad again. And that's the blind spot for Kirk Cousins. And I want to see this Garrett Bradbury improve really much because he was the first-round draft pick out of North Carolina, and obviously he's a first-round draft pick, so all the eyes are always on them. And being a center, it's not asking for much. I mean, I want to see him improve. I want to see this year be a great year for Garrett Bradbury. I want to see Josh Klein play well. I want to see Brian O'Neill play well. Obviously, those two people I feel like are pretty good starters. And then Pat Elflein, get him out of here. No, don't, you don't have to cut Pat Elflein. He's on his rookie contract. Use him as a backup. Get someone in free agency. Someone. I feel like anyone's going to be better than Pat Elflein. Start Dakota Dozier over him. I think Dakota Dozier played better last year than Pat Elflein did last year. Riley Reiff, get him out of here. With the Vikings playing Khalil Mack 2 times a year and playing Zadarius Smith 2 times a year, you want to see Riley Reiff and Pat Elflein play better because they can use them on that side. I mean, Khalil Mack, they usually use him on the right, but they can use him on both sides too. Zadarius Smith last year destroyed the Vikings, and the reason why Zadarius Smith looks so good against the Vikings, which, okay, he is good, but against the Vikings, he was the games that he shined completely, was because Riley Reiff and Pat Elflein are so garbage. He just used that one stiff throw, and they're gone. I mean, he just gets through the offensive line really easily. They let him by. They don't even try guarding him. So with playing Zadarius Smith, who destroys the Vikings, Zadarius Smith is a great linebacker. Okay, he's definitely a linebacker, but he's an off-ball linebacker. So he's a great off-ball linebacker, and he just destroys the Vikings offensive line because that left side is so bad. Double team him, and he's still getting by you, which is why we need to improve that. Okay, last year 2 games we lost because Kirk Cousins did not have enough time, and that was due to Riley Reiff and Pat Elflein. I think they could have used Kyle Rudolph more to defend him. I don't know. They have to figure out how to game plan against Zadarius Smith, which is what held the Vikings back against the Packers last year. And I hope this year will be better. So answering the question, how good is the Vikings offensive line this season? I'd say not. Is it good enough? Because no, because you have to play Zadarius Smith. Like I said, you have to play Khalil Mack. Having that left side is really bad, especially when you have Kirk Cousins, who you want him to sit inside the pocket because that's when he's the best. I mean, he has a great arm. He stays healthy. I want to see Kirk Cousins run more, but I don't know if they're really going to do that. So it's not good enough. We need to get new people on the left side of the offensive line, at guard, at left tackle, or just we don't even need to bring in a new left tackle. Just play Rashad Hill or Ezra Cleveland over him, see what they can do, see if they're better than Riley Reiff. If they are, just cut Riley Reiff. Please use that money that you got from cutting Riley Reiff to get a new left guard in free agency, because I don't know if there's any left tackles in free agency right now, but I know there's a lot of guards out there. So I do have some optimism with the Vikings offensive line because there is a lot of talent there. Well, not much with the starters, but there is a lot of backups who have possibilities, because if they play more, you can see that they can solidify themselves as good starters, which is exactly what the Vikings need. And with this many players who have talent, I think we could be having a pretty good offensive line this year. But yeah, let me know what y'all think. Is it going to be a good offensive line year, or is it going to look like the last 2 years? Last year wasn't as bad as 2018, but still, is it going to look like the last 5 years for the Vikings offensive line? That has not been good.